Well, as they say, tis the season. It's not quite the holidays yet, but it is the home buying season for so many people. That's why we have returning guest Greg Jaeger from USAA joining us on Get Down to Business. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Shalom. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So, Greg, so many people around the country are getting ready to put their homes up on the market. Many people are getting ready to buy new homes. And I know you have a lot to say on the subject regarding tips to maximize home purchasing power and selling price. Greg, what are you seeing, first of all, in the market? Is this home buying season sure to be sure to meet past records?
I think that it will. I think that there's two things that sort of offset whether we'll make those records or not. On one hand, we see home prices up yet again this year over last year, but so that works a little bit counter to whether or not we'd have record years. But working towards a record year is again persistent low interest rates.
Low interest rates, and I know that's a whole topic for discussion. I know that may not continue to be the case. I know that the Fed is talking about raising interest rates, but we'll get there perhaps shortly in the program. But tell us about home purchasing power. Who has the power right now? Is it the buyers or the sellers?
I think that, Shalom, you'd recognize that it varies sort of based on locale. But in general, I would say that, frankly, it's the sellers, especially for people who are, let's say, entering the market, first-time home buyers. In that band of the purchase level, there really is very low inventory available. And so, kind of what you see is every property that comes on the market that is of any quality at all is largely being snapped up quickly with multiple offers. And that power then ends up being in the seller's hands. But it varies a little bit, I think, market to market. Where I live, I happen to be in San Antonio, you see that entry-level price point behaving just the way I described, but then maybe your higher price points turning over a little bit more slowly. And so then maybe there's deals to be had for people buying in those higher ranges. Sure,
absolutely. And tell us what sellers should know, how they can perhaps increase the selling price. Everybody wants to do their best in this market, and I know that, again, as you implied, Greg, it depends on the market. And I know that some areas, I was just reading the Chicago Tribune this morning, I know they were talking a lot about the renters market, but they were also saying how certain neighborhoods have never seen higher prices. Every seller wants to get the best price possible for their home that they may have invested in the height of the market. What tips do you have for those sellers in 2016?
So I generally agree with you that, we're seeing that kind of, highest price that most people have seen in quite a long time, probably since pre-recession. But from a tips perspective, I'm a huge fan of using a professional, in this case, a real estate agent. The real estate agents, I think that, a lot of people's concern about sort of the entry point to using a real estate agent is the cost of their commission. But it takes very little research, I would say, at all. Somebody could go out to the National Association of Realtors website and find very good data that consistently, by using an agent, a seller will more than overcome the cost of the commission. So that's the starting point, to not be afraid of that commission, because it's generally well covered in the purchase price or the sales price.
Well, as they say, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's right. But then you kind of get into, well, what is it that they offer, the agents? And I think they offer a lot. I think they offer everything from, how to stage the home, both from an external perspective as well as interior perspective, so that it shows in the most appealing fashion to a prospective buyer. Prospective buyer is, you use the buyer who's going to get in an agent's car and go out on a weekend and go look at, 10 houses. If they drive up and the house is not appealing from the curb, they're not going inside. They've got 9 other houses to look at. So an agent can help guide a seller through all of those tips and techniques on how to best, represent the home to attract potential buyers to come in. And then once they're inside, what kind of things, ranging everything from how to arrange the furniture and declutter the home to recommendations about maintenance maintenance items that could or should be fixed. And not everything should be. And I think that's where the agent can be really, really good at helping guide a seller about, not wasting money on certain maintenance items.
Sure. Well, that's great advice. Once again, for buyers and sellers, Greg, we appreciate your advice. We've got about a minute remaining. I know you're an expert in the industry in this world of home buying and selling. You're with USAA, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about how our listeners can get a hold of you and your team and learn more about the important work that you're doing really around the country. Appreciate your advice as always.
So obviously we've got a website, USAA.com. If you go to USAA.com/find an agent, in that location, we've got a really cool program for the USAA members. And how we support them in probably ways that maybe others don't. But lots of data out there around finding an agent, but also lots of helpful information about whether it's homeowners insurance or home loan financing. All of those kind of things can be found on that website.
Fantastic. USAA.com. Greg Jaeger, we appreciate your advice for buyers and sellers of homes. Be sure to check back in with you to follow the real estate market throughout 2016. You're listening to Get Into Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Get on my website, shalomklein.com. More tips, advice, and information after the break.